In a small, bustling neighborhood on the outskirts of Atlanta, where life moved at its own unhurried pace, three teenage boys, Marcus, Jamal, and Tyrone, were inseparable. They spent their days playing basketball at the cracked cement court near the park, teasing each other mercilessly, and dreaming of futures that seemed far away yet tantalizingly close. Marcus, the tallest of the trio, had a knack for fixing things, whether it was a broken bike chain or a leaky faucet. Jamal, with his sharp wit and quick hands, could sketch anything he saw, turning blank pages into masterpieces in minutes. Tyrone, the youngest but most talkative, always had a story to tell or a joke to share, keeping the group laughing even during the toughest times. Their families lived paycheck to paycheck, and while money was tight, the boys never let it dampen their spirits. They found joy in simple pleasures, the thrill of making a perfect shot on the basketball court, the satisfaction of finishing a good meal, or the excitement of discovering something new about the world around them. On this particular summer afternoon, the air was thick with humidity, and the cicadas buzzed loudly as the boys made their way home after another game at the park. Their sneakers scuffed against the uneven pavement, and sweat dripped down their faces, but they didn't mind. Life felt carefree, even if only for a moment. As they turned onto a quieter stretch of road lined with tall oak trees, they noticed something unusual. A sleek black sports car pulled over to the side. The car gleamed under the sun, its polished surface reflecting the golden rays like a mirror. It looked out of place in their modest neighborhood, where most people drove old sedans or beat-up trucks. Curiosity piqued. The boys slowed their pace. Sitting beside the car was a man in his late 50s, dressed impeccably in a tailored navy blue suit. His silver hair was neatly combed back, and his leather shoes shone despite the dusty road. He was crouched next to the rear tire, inspecting it, with a look of frustration etched across his face. The boys stopped a few feet away, unsure of what to do. Should they offer help? The man's expensive clothes and fancy car suggested he might not want assistance from kids like them, but then again, the flat tire was obvious, and no one else seemed to be around. Marcus glanced at Jamal and Tyrone, silently asking for their opinion. "We should say something," Marcus finally whispered. "What if he needs help?" Jamal nodded slowly, though Tyrone hesitated. "You think he'll even talk to us?" Tyrone asked skeptically. Marcus shrugged. Only one way to find out. Summoning their courage, the boys approached cautiously. "Excuse me, sir," Marcus called out, his voice steady despite the nervous flutter in his chest. The man looked up, startled by the interruption. For a brief second, his eyes scanned the boys, taking in their worn sneakers and faded t-shirts. Then, to their surprise, his expression softened. "Yes?" he replied, his tone polite but tinged with weariness. "Do you need some help with your tire?" Marcus asked, gesturing toward the deflated rubber on the ground. The man sighed and stood up, brushing dust off his hands. "I'm afraid I don't know the first thing about changing a tire," he admitted with a sheepish smile. "I usually have someone else take care of these things." The boys exchanged glances, suppressing smirks at the thought of this sharply dressed man being clueless about car repairs. "We can help," Marcus said confidently. Without waiting for a response, he stepped forward and knelt beside the car. Jamal and Tyrone followed suit, opening the trunk to retrieve the jack and spare tire. As they worked, the man introduced himself as Mr. Davidson, explaining that he was on his way to a business meeting when the tire went flat. He watched in amazement as the boys moved with practiced ease, their movements efficient and coordinated. Marcus handled the jack, lifting the car smoothly, while Jamal loosened the lug nuts and Tyrone prepared the spare tire. Despite the sweltering heat, the boys joked and teased each other, their playful banter easing the tension of the situation. Mr. Davidson couldn't help but chuckle at their antics. "You boys seem like pros at this," he remarked, leaning against the car. "Had enough practice," Marcus replied with a grin, wiping sweat from his brow. "Flat tires are pretty common around here." Tyrone chimed in. "Yeah, we've helped plenty of folks before, though none of them drove cars like yours." His comment drew laughter from everyone, including Mr. Davidson, who seemed genuinely amused by their charm and confidence. As the minutes ticked by, the boys worked tirelessly, their teamwork seamless. By the time they tightened the last lug nut and lowered the car back onto the ground, nearly 20 minutes had passed. Stepping back, Marcus wiped his hands on his jeans and gave Mr. Davidson a thumbs up. "All done, sir," he announced proudly. Mr. Davidson examined the newly installed tire, clearly impressed. "You boys are incredible," he said sincerely. "I don't know how to thank you." The boys shrugged modestly, insisting it was no big deal. "Just glad we could help," Jamal added with a smile. But Mr. Davidson wasn't satisfied with simply thanking them verbally. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out his wallet and offered them cash as a token of gratitude. The boys immediately shook their heads, refusing to accept it. "We didn't do it for money, sir," Marcus explained firmly. "We just wanted to help." Moved by their sincerity, Mr. Davidson put his wallet away but promised to remember their kindness. Little did the boys know this promise would soon lead to something extraordinary. As they waved goodbye and continued their walk home, the boys couldn't stop talking about the encounter. "Did you see that car?" Tyrone exclaimed, still marveling at its sleek design. "And those shoes, man, they were so shiny." Jamal laughed. "Who cares about the shoes? Did you hear him? He sounded really grateful." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "Yeah, but I didn't expect him to try and pay us. That felt weird." Despite the brief awkwardness, they agreed it had been a fun experience, one they wouldn't forget anytime soon. Back in their neighborhood, the boys returned to their usual routine, playing basketball until sunset and sharing dinner with their families. Yet deep down, they couldn't shake the feeling that something special had happened that day. Helping Mr. Davidson had been instinctive, an act of kindness born out of habit rather than expectation. But sometimes the smallest gestures can have the biggest impact, setting off a chain reaction neither giver nor receiver could foresee. Unbeknownst to the boys, their paths were about to cross with Mr. Davidson once more, leading to opportunities they could scarcely imagine. The next morning, the quiet rhythm of the neighborhood was disrupted by the arrival of a sleek black SUV. It rolled down the street slowly, its tinted windows giving it an air of mystery. Neighbors peeked out from behind curtains and porches, whispering to each other about who the visitor might be. The SUV finally came to a stop in front of Marcus's house, where it idled for a moment before two men stepped out. Both were dressed in sharp suits, their polished shoes clicking against the pavement as they approached the door. One carried a leather briefcase while the other held a clipboard. Their presence immediately drew attention, and curious eyes followed their every move. Marcus was sitting on the front steps scrolling through his phone when he noticed the men heading toward him. At first, he thought they might have the wrong address, but then one of them called out, "Are you Marcus?" Startled, Marcus stood up and nodded cautiously. "Yes, that's me," he replied, his voice tinged with uncertainty. The men introduced themselves as associates of Mr. Davidson, explaining that they had come on his behalf. They asked if Marcus's friends, Jamal and Tyrone, were nearby, as Mr. Davidson had requested to see all three of them. Confused but intrigued, Marcus quickly called Jamal and Tyrone over. Within minutes, the trio was gathered in front of the house, staring at the strangers with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. The men handed each boy an envelope, their expressions unreadable but professional. "Mr. Davidson wanted you to have these," one of them said simply. The boys exchanged glances before opening the envelopes. Inside, they found handwritten letters addressed to them individually. Each letter expressed heartfelt gratitude for their kindness the previous day, praising their willingness to help without expecting anything in return. Alongside the letters were gift cards worth $500 each, enough to buy new clothes, school supplies, or even save for something special. The boys stared at the contents in disbelief, their minds struggling to process what was happening. "Is this real?" Tyrone muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. Marcus pinched himself subtly, half expecting to wake up from a dream. Word of the unexpected gifts spread like wildfire through the neighborhood. Neighbors gathered around, eager to hear the full story. The boys recounted every detail, from changing the flat tire to receiving the envelopes that morning. Some listened with wide-eyed amazement while others clapped the boys on the back, congratulating them for their good deed. "You boys done good," one elderly neighbor said, smiling warmly. "Looks like karma's paying you back." Despite the praise, Marcus, Jamal, and Tyron remained humble, insisting they had only done what anyone else would have done. Still, the sheer generosity of Mr. Davidson's gesture left them feeling both grateful and slightly overwhelmed. Later, that week, another package arrived at Marcus's doorstep. A neatly typed letter inviting the boys to visit Mr. Davidson's office downtown. The invitation explained that he wished to meet them personally and discuss potential opportunities. The letter was formal yet warm, emphasizing how much their actions had meant to him. The boys read it multiple times, their excitement growing with each word. "This is insane," Jamal said, running a hand through his hair. "What kind of opportunities is he talking about?" Tyrone shrugged, his usual bravado tempered by nervousness. "I don't know, but whatever it is, it sounds big." Despite their excitement, the prospect of visiting a billionaire's office made them uneasy. None of them had ever been inside a skyscraper, let alone met someone as influential as Mr. Davidson. They spent hours debating what to wear, how to act, and what questions to ask. Marcus suggested they dress neatly but not too fancy, wanting to strike a balance between respectful and authentic. Jamal practiced shaking hands in the mirror, determined to make a good impression. Tyrone rehearsed possible conversation starters, though he kept stumbling over his words. By the time the day of the meeting arrived, their nerves were stretched taut, but they refused to back down. Whatever awaited them, they were ready to face it together. When they stepped into the towering glass building housing Mr. Davidson's company, the boys felt small and out of place. The lobby was vast and modern, with marble floors that gleamed under soft lighting. Employees bustled about, dressed in crisp suits and carrying tablets or folders. Every corner exuded professionalism, a stark contrast to the laid-back vibe of their neighborhood. A receptionist greeted them politely and escorted them to an elevator, pressing the button for the top floor. As the doors slid shut, the boys exchanged nervous glances, their reflections staring back at them from the mirrored walls. "This is wild," Tyrone whispered, breaking the silence. Marcus nodded, his jaw clenched tightly. "Just stay cool, okay? We got this." The elevator opened onto a luxurious office suite, where Mr. Davidson himself was waiting. He greeted them warmly, his demeanor putting them at ease almost instantly. Unlike the stern figure they had imagined, he was approachable and kind, offering them seats and refreshments. Over lunch, which consisted of sandwiches and lemonade served on fine china, he shared stories of his own childhood. Growing up in a working-class family, he had faced many challenges but had always believed in the power of hard work and integrity. His journey from modest beginnings to becoming a successful entrepreneur fascinated the boys, who hung on his every word. As the conversation shifted, Mr. Davidson explained why he had invited them. He admitted that their selflessness had deeply moved him, reminding him of values he held dear. Impressed by their character, he wanted to mentor them and provide resources to help them pursue their dreams. Whether it was education, entrepreneurship, or personal growth, he pledged to support them in any way he could. The boys listened intently, their hearts swelling with gratitude. For the first time in their lives, they felt seen, not just as kids from the neighborhood, but as individuals with potential and purpose. Over the following weeks, Mr. Davidson became more than just a benefactor. He became a guide and advocate. He enrolled the boys in leadership workshops, connected them with mentors in fields they were passionate about, and even helped their families financially during tough times. Marcus discovered a love for engineering after attending a robotics camp sponsored by Mr. Davidson. Jamal pursued art and design, creating pieces that earned recognition at local exhibitions. Tyrone developed a talent for public speaking, delivering speeches that inspired his peers. Each boy flourished under the guidance and encouragement they received, their confidence soaring with every achievement. Their academic performance improved dramatically, and teachers began to notice the change. "These boys are unstoppable," one teacher remarked during a parent-teacher conference. They've gone from average students to leaders in the classroom. Friends and neighbors marveled at their transformation, attributing it to the opportunities provided by Mr. Davidson. Yet the boys never forgot where they came from. They remained grounded, using their newfound skills and knowledge to uplift those around them. They organized community cleanup drives, tutored younger kids, and volunteered at local shelters, proving that success was sweeter when shared. Years passed and the boys graduated high school with honors, earning scholarships to prestigious universities. On graduation day, as they stood proudly in caps and gowns, they reflected on how far they had come. What started as a chance encounter on a dusty road had blossomed into a life-changing partnership. They credited Mr. Davidson not only for his generosity but also for teaching them the importance of paying it forward. Inspired by his example, they vowed to continue spreading kindness and creating opportunities for others, ensuring that the ripple effect of their actions would endure long after they were gone. Even as they embarked on separate paths, Marcus, studying engineering, Jamal pursuing graphic design, and Tyrone majoring in communications, they remained close friends. They often reminisced about the day they changed a billionaire's tire, laughing at how surreal it all seemed. But beneath the laughter lay a profound understanding. Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness can lead to extraordinary outcomes. And for Marcus, Jamal, and Tyrone, that belief became the foundation of everything they achieved. The meeting with Mr. Davidson left the boys buzzing with energy and ideas, but it also planted seeds of doubt in their minds. As they walked back to the elevator after lunch, Tyrone couldn't help but voice what they were all thinking. "Do you think this is real?" he asked quietly, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. Marcus glanced at him, frowning slightly. "What do you mean? Of course it's real. We just had lunch with him." Tyrone shook his head, his brow furrowed. "I know, but why us? Why would someone like him care about 3 kids from our neighborhood? It doesn't make sense." Jamal chimed in, his tone thoughtful. "Maybe that's the point. Maybe he sees something in us we don't see yet." Marcus nodded slowly, mulling over Jamal's words. "Yeah, or maybe he just wants to help because he can. Either way, I'm not going to question it too much. This could be a chance to change things, for all of us." Despite his optimism, even Marcus felt a flicker of unease. They weren't used to people going out of their way to support them, especially strangers who seemed worlds apart from their everyday lives. Back home, the boys struggled to explain the situation to their families without sounding boastful or unrealistic. When Marcus told his mom about the meeting, she listened intently, her expression shifting between pride and concern. "Be careful, baby," she said finally, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Not everyone has good intentions, no matter how nice they seem." Her words echoed in Marcus's mind as he replayed the conversation later that night. He knew his mom was right. Trust didn't come easily in their world, but there was something genuine about Mr. Davidson that made it hard to doubt him. Over the next few weeks, Mr. Davidson kept his promise. He arranged for the boys to attend leadership workshops held at a nearby community center. At first, they were hesitant, unsure of what to expect. The workshops were led by professionals who spoke passionately about goal setting, teamwork, and resilience. Through interactive activities and group discussions, the boys began to realize how much untapped potential they had. Marcus discovered a knack for problem-solving during a session on critical thinking. Jamal found himself sketching designs for hypothetical projects, impressing both instructors and peers alike. Tyrone surprised everyone with his ability to motivate others, earning praise for his natural charisma. But it wasn't just the workshops that transformed them. Mr. Davidson introduced them to mentors who became guiding lights in their respective fields. For Marcus, it was an engineer named Ms. Patel who took him under her wing and showed him the intricacies of robotics. She challenged him to think creatively and pushed him to pursue projects outside his comfort zone. Under her guidance, Marcus built a small drone capable of delivering supplies, a prototype inspired by stories of rural areas struggling with access to resources. Seeing his creation take flight filled him with a sense of accomplishment he'd never experienced before. Jamal's mentor was a graphic designer named Andre, whose vibrant portfolio showcased everything from album covers to branding campaigns. Andre taught Jamal how to use design software and encouraged him to experiment with different styles. Together, they worked on a mural project aimed at beautifying their neighborhood. Jamal poured his heart into the artwork, using bold colors and striking imagery to tell stories of hope and resilience. When the mural was unveiled, it became a symbol of pride for the entire community, drawing visitors from neighboring districts. Tyrone's journey took a different path. His mentor, a motivational speaker named Ms. Carter, recognized his gift for connecting with people. She coached him on public speaking, teaching him techniques to engage audiences and convey messages effectively. At first, Tyrone stumbled through practice speeches, his nerves getting the better of him. But with persistence and encouragement, he gradually gained confidence. His breakthrough moment came when he delivered a speech at a local youth summit, sharing his story of growing up in a tough neighborhood and finding opportunities through kindness. The standing ovation he received brought tears to his eyes, solidifying his belief in the power of words. As the months passed, the boys' lives began to change in ways they hadn't anticipated. Their academic performance soared, catching the attention of teachers and counselors. "You're setting an example for your classmates," one counselor told them during a meeting. "Keep pushing yourselves, and there's no limit to what you can achieve." Friends and neighbors noticed the shift too. Where once they had been seen as ordinary teenagers, now they were viewed as role models. Younger kids looked up to them, asking for advice or simply wanting to hang out. The boys embraced this newfound responsibility, organizing study groups and coaching basketball teams in their spare time. Mr. Davidson remained a constant presence in their lives, checking in regularly to see how they were progressing. He attended school events, cheering them on during basketball games and science fairs. On weekends, he invited them to his office for informal chats, where they discussed their goals and challenges. These conversations gave the boys a glimpse into the mindset of a successful entrepreneur, teaching them valuable lessons about perseverance, humility, and the importance of giving back. "Success isn't just about what you achieve for yourself," Mr. Davidson often reminded them. "It's about how you lift others along the way." Despite their growing achievements, the boys never lost sight of their roots. They continued to volunteer in their community, organizing food drives, cleaning parks, and mentoring younger students. One summer, they launched a free basketball camp for kids in the neighborhood, using donated equipment and funds provided by Mr. Davidson. Watching the children laugh and play, the boys felt a deep sense of fulfillment. "This is why we're doing this," Marcus said one afternoon as they packed up after a long day of coaching, "to show them that they matter and that they can dream big, just like we did." Their efforts didn't go unnoticed. Local newspapers featured their initiatives, highlighting their commitment to making a difference. Teachers praised them for being changemakers, while parents thanked them for inspiring their children. Yet the boys stayed humble, deflecting compliments and focusing instead on the work ahead. "We're just trying to pay it forward," Jamal explained during an interview. "Someone helped us when we needed it, so now it's our turn to help others." By the time senior year rolled around, the boys were excelling in every aspect of their lives. Marcus earned top marks in advanced math and physics, securing a full scholarship to a renowned engineering program. Jamal's artistic talent earned him admission to a prestigious art school, where he planned to specialize in digital design. Tyrone's eloquence and leadership skills landed him a spot in a communications program with a focus on advocacy and social justice. On graduation day, as they stood together on stage, diplomas in hand, they reflected on how far they had come since that fateful afternoon when they changed a billionaire's tire. As confetti rained down and cameras flashed, the boys exchanged knowing smiles. They knew their journey was far from over, but they also knew they had each other and the lessons they had learned to guide them forward. Mr. Davidson sat in the audience, clapping enthusiastically as tears welled up in his eyes. He had always believed in the power of opportunity, but seeing these young men transform before his very eyes reaffirmed his faith in humanity. For Marcus, Jamal, and Tyrone, the road ahead was uncertain, But one thing was clear. They would face it with courage, determination, and an unshakable commitment to kindness. Even as they prepared to leave for college, the boys vowed to stay connected to their community. They promised to return during breaks, bringing new ideas and resources to uplift those still struggling. "We're proof that anything is possible," Tyrone declared during a farewell gathering at the park. "If 3 kids from this neighborhood can make it, anyone can." His words resonated deeply, leaving an indelible mark on everyone who heard them. And though their paths diverged, the bond they shared and the impact they created would endure for years to come. The transition to college was both thrilling and daunting for Marcus, Jamal, and Tyrone. For the first time in their lives, they were stepping into a world far removed from the familiarity of their neighborhood. The campuses they attended were sprawling and vibrant, filled with students from diverse backgrounds and cultures. At first, the boys felt like outsiders, unsure of how to navigate this new environment. But they quickly realized that the values, instilled in them by Mr. Davidson, hard work, resilience, and kindness, were universal tools that could help them adapt and thrive. Marcus found himself immersed in a rigorous engineering program at a university known for its cutting-edge research. Surrounded by brilliant minds, he initially doubted whether he belonged. His classes were challenging, and the workload often left him feeling overwhelmed. Late nights in the library became routine, as did early mornings spent reviewing notes and solving equations. Yet, despite the pressure, Marcus refused to give up. He remembered Ms. Patel's advice. Success isn't given, it's earned. With each passing semester, his confidence grew. By the end of his sophomore year, he had joined a robotics team working on innovative projects, including one aimed at creating affordable prosthetics for underprivileged communities. Seeing the direct impact of his work fueled his passion even further. Jamal, meanwhile, embraced the creative chaos of art school. His campus buzzed with energy, every corner adorned with colorful murals and experimental installations. Instructors pushed him to think outside the box, encouraging him to blend traditional techniques with modern technology. Jamal thrived in this dynamic setting, producing pieces that caught the attention of professors and peers alike. One of his digital designs, a striking visual commentary on social justice, was selected for display at a regional art exhibition. Standing beside his work on opening night, Jamal felt a surge of pride as visitors praised his talent and vision. For the first time, he allowed himself to believe that he could make a career out of his passion. Tyrone faced his own set of challenges at his communications program. Public speaking no longer terrified him, but adapting to academic writing proved difficult. Essays and research papers required a level of precision and discipline he hadn't anticipated. There were moments when frustration threatened to overwhelm him, but he reminded himself of Ms. Carter's words. Growth happens when you push through discomfort. Slowly but surely he improved, learning to craft compelling arguments and articulate complex ideas. His persistence paid off when he was chosen to represent his university at a national debate competition. Though nerves still crept in before each round, Tyrone drew strength from the knowledge that he was carrying not only his dreams but also those of his community. Despite being miles apart, the boys stayed connected through regular video calls and group chats. They shared updates about their lives, celebrated victories big and small, and offered support during tough times. These virtual reunions became a lifeline, grounding them in the bond they had forged back home. During one call, Tyrone joked, "Man, I never thought we'd go from changing tires to changing lives." Marcus laughed, shaking his head. "We're just getting started, bro." Back in their neighborhood, news of the boys' achievements continued to inspire others. Parents told their children stories of Marcus, Jamal, and Tyrone, urging them to aim high despite the odds. Teachers used their examples to motivate struggling students, reminding them that success wasn't reserved for the privileged few. Even local businesses got involved, offering internships and apprenticeships to young people eager to follow in the boys' footsteps. The ripple effect of their journey extended far beyond what they could have imagined. During winter break, the boys returned home, eager to reconnect with their roots. They organized a community event at the park, inviting neighbors, friends, and mentors to celebrate progress and plan for the future. Marcus showcased a prototype of his robotic arm, explaining how it worked and answering questions from curious attendees. Jamal displayed some of his artwork, using the opportunity to discuss the importance of storytelling through visuals. Tyrone delivered a powerful speech, urging everyone to believe in themselves and their ability to create change. "If we can do it," he said, his voice steady and strong, "so can you." Their efforts didn't stop there. Over the next few years, they collaborated on several initiatives designed to empower their community. Together, they launched a mentorship program pairing high school students with college graduates willing to share their experiences. They also fundraised to build a community center equipped with computers, art supplies, and sports equipment. The center became a hub for learning and creativity, providing resources that many residents had lacked for years. Watching kids gather there after school filled the boys with a sense of purpose they couldn't put into words. As graduation approached, the boys reflected on how much they had grown, not just academically or professionally, but personally. They had entered college unsure of who they were or what they wanted to achieve. Now they stood on the brink of adulthood with clear goals and unwavering determination. Marcus planned to pursue a master's degree in biomedical engineering, hoping to develop affordable medical devices for underserved populations. Jamal dreamed of starting his own design studio, where he could collaborate with artists from around the world while staying true to his roots. Tyrone envisioned a career in advocacy, using his voice to amplify marginalized communities and drive systemic change. On the day of their respective graduations, emotions ran high. Families traveled long distances to witness the ceremonies, their faces glowing with pride. Friends gathered in large groups, cheering loudly as the boys walked across the stage to receive their diplomas. When Marcus's name was called, he paused briefly, scanning the crowd until he spotted Mr. Davidson sitting near the front. Their eyes met, and Marcus gave a small nod, silently thanking him for everything. Jamal wiped away tears as he accepted his diploma, thinking of all the late nights spent perfecting his craft. Tyrone pumped his fist triumphantly, shouting, "This is for the hood," as the audience erupted in applause. Afterward, the boys reunited at Marcus's house for a celebratory dinner. Laughter filled the room as they reminisced about their journey, from the dusty road where they changed a billionaire's tire to the stages where they now stood as accomplished graduates. Mr. Davidson joined them, beaming with pride. "You've exceeded my expectations," he said, raising a glass. "But more importantly, you've proven that kindness and hard work can truly transform lives, including your own." The boys clinked glasses with him, grateful for the role he had played in their story. Looking ahead, they knew challenges lay ahead. Life wouldn't always be easy, and setbacks were inevitable. But they also knew they had something invaluable: each other. Their friendship had been the foundation of everything they achieved, a source of strength and encouragement when times got tough. As they toasted to the future, they made a silent pact to continue supporting one another, no matter where life took them. That summer, the boys embarked on a cross-country road trip to celebrate their accomplishments and reflect on their journey. They visited landmarks, explored cities, and reconnected with mentors who had shaped their paths. Along the way, they encountered countless reminders of the impact they had made, and the potential they still held to create even greater change. Whether it was volunteering at a youth shelter in Chicago, or speaking at a leadership conference, in Los Angeles they seized every opportunity to inspire others and spread hope. By the time they returned home, they were more determined than ever to use their skills and experiences to uplift their community. They began drafting plans for a nonprofit organization focused on education, creativity, and advocacy. It would be a space where young people could dream fearlessly, learn relentlessly, and grow confidently. Naming it Ripple Effect, they hoped to embody the idea that small actions could lead to monumental outcomes. Years later, as they looked back on their lives, the boys marveled at how far they had come. From humble beginnings to achieving their wildest dreams, their story served as proof that anything was possible with determination, support, and a little bit of luck. And though they had taken different paths, their mission remained the same: to leave the world better than they found it. Because in the end, that was the greatest legacy they could hope to leave behind. As the boys settled into their post-graduation lives, they found themselves navigating a world that was vastly different from the one they had grown up in. The innocence of childhood and the simplicity of their neighborhood felt like distant memories now, replaced by the complexities of adulthood. Yet, no matter how much their circumstances changed, they carried with them the lessons they had learned along the way, lessons about resilience, gratitude, and the power of community. These values became the guiding principles as they worked to build careers and make meaningful contributions to society. Marcus dove headfirst into his master's program in biomedical engineering, immersing himself in research projects that pushed the boundaries of innovation. His days were filled with lab work, meetings with professors, and late-night brainstorming sessions with fellow students. He often thought back to the robotics camp Mr. Davidson had sponsored, where he first realized the potential of technology to solve real-world problems. Now, as he designed affordable medical devices for underprivileged communities, he felt a deep sense of purpose. One project in particular consumed most of his time: developing a portable water purification system that could be deployed in rural areas without access to clean drinking water. It was challenging work, but every prototype brought him closer to his goal. Jamal, on the other hand, threw himself into the creative chaos of starting his own design studio. After graduating, he spent months networking, pitching ideas, and securing funding before finally opening the doors to Rooted Designs. The name reflected his commitment to staying connected to his origins while embracing new opportunities. Located in a trendy part of Atlanta, the studio quickly gained attention for its bold, socially conscious artwork. Clients ranged from local businesses looking for unique branding to nonprofits seeking visuals for awareness campaigns. Jamal poured his heart into every project, using his art to tell stories that mattered. His proudest moment came when a mural he created for a hospital waiting room received national recognition, not just for its beauty, but for its ability to inspire hope in patients and families. Trio Tyrone embarked on perhaps the most unpredictable journey of all. Armed with his degree in communications and advocacy, he joined a grassroots organization focused on criminal justice reform. His role involved lobbying lawmakers, organizing protests, and amplifying voices from marginalized communities through social media platforms. It wasn't glamorous work, and there were days when progress seemed painfully slow. But Tyrone thrived in this environment, driven by a desire to dismantle systems of oppression that had affected so many people he loved. His speeches at rallies and conferences drew standing ovations, earning him a reputation as a passionate advocate for change. Friends joked that he might run for office someday, though Tyrone laughed off the idea, for now anyway. Despite their demanding schedules, the boys made it a priority to stay connected. Weekly video calls became sacred rituals, a chance to check in with each other and share updates about their lives. They talked about everything: their successes, their struggles, and even the mundane details of daily life. Sometimes the conversations turned nostalgic as they reminisced about old basketball games or funny moments from their childhood. Other times they discussed bigger issues, debating strategies for tackling inequality and injustice. These discussions reinforced their belief that collaboration was key to creating lasting impact. Their nonprofit organization, Ripple Effect, took shape slowly but steadily over the next few years. What began as a dream around Marcus's kitchen table evolved into a fully operational entity with a team of volunteers and staff members. The mission was simple yet ambitious: to provide resources and opportunities for underserved youth, empowering them to pursue their passions and reach their full potential. Programs included after-school tutoring, art workshops, leadership training, and mentorship initiatives. Funding came from a mix of grants, donations, and fundraising events organized by the boys themselves. One such event, a charity gala held at a downtown venue, marked a turning point for Ripple Effect. Attendees included local dignitaries, business, leaders, and community activists, all eager to support the cause. Marcus gave a heartfelt speech, sharing his journey from changing a flat tire to founding an organization dedicated to uplifting others. Jamal showcased artwork created by participants in Ripple Effects programs, highlighting the transformative power of creativity. Tyrone delivered a fiery call to action, urging everyone to invest in the next generation of changemakers. By the end of the evening, they had raised enough money to expand their operations significantly. The success of Ripple Effect didn't go unnoticed. Local newspapers wrote glowing articles about the organization, praising its innovative approach and measurable impact. Teachers reported seeing improvements in students' academic performance and self-esteem. Parents expressed gratitude for the safe spaces provided by the community center. Even skeptics who had doubted the boys' ability to effect real change were won over by tangible results. As word spread, requests for partnerships and collaborations poured in from across the country. Yet amidst all the accolades, the boys remained grounded. They knew better than anyone that success wasn't permanent. It required constant effort and adaptation. So they continued showing up, putting in the hard work needed to sustain momentum. They visited schools, attended town hall meetings, and listened intently to feedback from those they served. Their humility endeared them to the community, reinforcing trust and loyalty. Over time, Ripple Effect expanded beyond Atlanta, establishing chapters in cities nationwide. Each location tailored its programs to meet local needs, ensuring relevance and effectiveness. Volunteers traveled between sites, sharing best practices and fostering a sense of unity among participants. The boys marveled at how far their vision had come, though they never lost sight of its humble beginnings. To them, Ripple Effect wasn't just an organization. It was a movement fueled by love, determination, and the belief that everyone deserved a fair shot at success. During one particularly memorable year, the boys reunited in Atlanta to celebrate the 5th anniversary of Ripple Effect. The event was held at the same park where they had played basketball as kids, now transformed into a vibrant hub of activity thanks to their efforts. Hundreds of people gathered to mark the occasion, including former mentees who had gone on to achieve great things. Some had started businesses, others had pursued higher education, and still others had become advocates for social justice. Watching them interact with the crowd, Marcus, Jamal, and Tyrone felt an overwhelming sense of pride. That night, as fireworks lit up the sky, the boys stood together, reflecting on their journey. They had faced challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt, but they had also experienced triumphs beyond their wildest dreams. Through it all, they had remained true to themselves and to the values instilled in them by Mr. Davidson and their families. "We did it," Tyrone said softly, breaking the silence. "Not just us three, but everyone who believed in us and supported us along the way." Jamal nodded, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "And we're not done yet," he added. "There's still so much more we can do." Marcus smiled, clapping a hand on each of their shoulders. "Absolutely. This is just the beginning." As they looked out at the sea of faces illuminated by firelight, they knew they had accomplished something extraordinary. But more importantly, they understood that their legacy wouldn't be defined by awards or recognition. It would be measured by the lives they touched and the ripple effects they inspired. For Marcus, Jamal, and Tyrone, that was the ultimate reward. And as long as they kept pushing forward, there was no limit to what they could achieve together. As the years rolled on, Marcus, Jamal, and Tyrone found themselves not just building careers, but also carving out lives that were rich with meaning. Each of them had taken their unique paths, yet they remained bound by a shared vision and an unbreakable bond. The nonprofit Ripple Effect continued to grow, becoming more than just a local initiative. It was now a beacon of hope for countless young people across the country. But as much as they celebrated their successes, they were constantly reminded of the challenges that lay ahead. Life, they realized, was never static. It demanded constant adaptation, resilience, and reinvention. Marcus's journey in biomedical engineering took him into uncharted territory. After completing his master's program, he joined a research team working on cutting-edge solutions for global health crises. His portable water purification system, which had started as a project in his dorm room, evolved into a full-fledged product used in remote villages around the world. Seeing photos of children drinking clean water from devices he helped design filled him with a profound sense of fulfillment. Yet the road wasn't without obstacles. Funding was often unpredictable, and bureaucratic hurdles sometimes delayed projects. There were days when frustration threatened to overwhelm him, but he reminded himself of why he started: to make life better for those who needed it most. Jamal's design studio flourished beyond anyone's expectations. Rooted designs became synonymous with innovation and authenticity, attracting clients from all walks of life. From creating murals that transformed cityscapes to designing logos that captured the essence of small businesses, Jamal poured his soul into every piece of work. But what brought him the greatest joy was mentoring young artists through Ripple Effect. He organized workshops where kids could experiment with different mediums, encouraging them to express themselves freely. Watching shy teenagers blossom into confident creators reaffirmed his belief in the transformative power of art. Still, success came with its own set of pressures. Deadlines loomed large, and competition in the creative industry was fierce. Yet, Jamal thrived under pressure, using it as fuel to push boundaries and explore new ideas. Tyrone's advocacy work kept him at the forefront of social justice movements. Over time, he became a familiar face at rallies, conferences, and legislative hearings. His speeches resonated deeply with audiences, blending raw emotion with sharp analysis. But advocacy was far from glamorous. It required long hours, relentless persistence, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Tyrone faced criticism from skeptics who dismissed his efforts as idealistic or impractical. Some accused him of being too radical, while others thought he wasn't doing enough. Despite the negativity, he stayed true to his mission, knowing that real change rarely happened overnight. What kept him going was the support of his friends and the knowledge that his work mattered, not just to him, but to the communities he served. Even as their individual pursuits flourished, the boys made sure to prioritize their friendship. They carved out time for annual retreats, often returning to the park where their journey began. These trips weren't just about relaxation. They were opportunities to reflect, recharge, and plan for the future. During one such retreat, they sat around a campfire late into the night, discussing how Ripple Effect could expand its reach even further. "What if we went international?" Tyrone suggested, tossing a stick into the flames. Marcus leaned forward, intrigued. "It's ambitious, but doable. We'd need partners on the ground, though." Jamal nodded thoughtfully. "And funding. Lots of it." Their brainstorming sessions often led to bold decisions. Within a year, Ripple Effect launched its first international chapter in Nairobi, Kenya, focusing on education and entrepreneurship programs for youth. The expansion was daunting, requiring months of planning and coordination, but seeing the impact firsthand during their visit to Nairobi made every challenge worth it. Local leaders embraced the initiative, praising its emphasis on sustainability and community involvement. For Marcus, Jamal, and Tyrone, this milestone marked a new phase in their journey, one defined by global ambition and cross-cultural collaboration. Back in Atlanta, the community they had nurtured over the years continued to thrive. Former participants of Ripple Effect's programs returned as volunteers, eager to give back. Some became mentors themselves, guiding younger generations through the same struggles they once faced. Parents thanked the boys for providing safe spaces and opportunities that otherwise wouldn't exist. Teachers reported improved attendance and academic performance among students involved in the programs. Even local businesses benefited, hiring interns and employees recommended by Ripple Effect. The ripple effect, quite literally, extended far beyond what the boys had envisioned. Despite their accomplishments, the boys remained humble, aware of how privilege and luck had played roles in their success. They often spoke about the importance of staying grounded and giving credit where it was due. "We didn't get here alone," Marcus said during an interview. "Every step of the way, someone believed in us. Our families, our neighbors, Mr. Davidson, were standing on their shoulders." This acknowledgement became a recurring theme in their public appearances, inspiring others to recognize the invisible hands that shape their journeys. Mr. Davidson, now in his late 60s, remained a steadfast supporter of the boys in their endeavors. Though retired, he continued to attend ripple effect events, offering advice and encouragement whenever needed. His presence was a comforting reminder of how far they had come since that fateful day by the side of the road. During one particularly emotional gathering, he stood up to speak, his voice steady despite the lump in his throat. "When I met these three young men, I saw potential, but I couldn't have predicted this," he said, gesturing toward the bustling crowd. "They've taught me that kindness isn't just an act, it's a catalyst for change, and today I'm proud to call them my friends." The boys' personal lives also evolved in unexpected ways. Marcus fell in love with a fellow engineer named Elena, whose passion for renewable energy matched his drive for innovation. Together they dreamed of combining their expertise to tackle environmental challenges. Jamal reconnected with an old high school friend, Maya, who shared his love for art and storytelling. Their partnership blossomed both personally and professionally, leading to joint projects that blended visual art with narrative filmmaking. Tyrone, ever the charismatic charmer, dated several people before meeting Aisha, a lawyer-turned-activist whose fiery spirit complemented his own. Their debates over dinner often turned into spirited discussions about policy reform and grassroots organizing. Family ties remained strong throughout their busy lives. Marcus regularly visited his mom, helping her navigate technology and sharing updates about his work. Jamal spent weekends painting alongside his younger sister, teaching her techniques he'd learned over the years. Tyrone organized family game nights, ensuring everyone stayed connected despite hectic schedules. Their loved ones, in turn, cheered them on from the sidelines, celebrating victories big and small. "You're making us proud," Marcus's mom told him during one visit. "Just don't forget to take care of yourself, okay?" By their mid-30s, the boys had achieved levels of success that once seemed unimaginable. Yet, they knew their work was far from over. Challenges persisted: economic inequality, systemic racism, climate change, and they felt a responsibility to address them head-on. Ripple Effect expanded into new areas, including mental health awareness and climate action initiatives. This year, boys collaborated with experts, activists, and policymakers to develop comprehensive strategies for tackling these issues. Their approach was always rooted in empathy and inclusivity, ensuring that marginalized voices remained at the center of every conversation. One evening, as they gathered on the rooftop of Jamal's studio, overlooking the glittering skyline of Atlanta, they reflected on how far they had come. "Remember when we thought college was the finish line?" Tyrone asked, laughing softly. Marcus shook his head, smiling. "Feels like another lifetime ago." Jamal raised his glass, catching the light. "Here's to the next chapter, whatever it brings." As they clinked glasses, they knew the road ahead would be unpredictable. But uncertainty no longer frightened them. Instead, it excited them. They had built lives filled with purpose, driven by a desire to leave the world better than they found it. And as long as they stood together, there was nothing they couldn't overcome. For Marcus, Jamal, and Tyrone, the journey was never truly about reaching a destination. It was about creating ripples of change that would endure for generations to come. As the years passed, Marcus, Jamal, and Tyrone began to notice a shift, not just in the world around them, but within themselves. They were no longer the wide-eyed teenagers who had once changed a billionaire's tire on a hot summer afternoon. Now they were leaders, visionaries, and change-makers, their names synonymous with hope and progress. Yet despite their accomplishments, they couldn't escape the realization that life was fleeting, unpredictable, and often bittersweet. This awareness brought both clarity and urgency to their work, pushing them to dream bigger while cherishing the moments they had. Marcus, now in his late 30s, found himself increasingly drawn to the idea of legacy. His biomedical engineering projects had saved countless lives, but he wondered what kind of mark he would leave behind when he was gone. The question haunted him during quiet nights spent alone in his lab, surrounded by prototypes and blueprints. One evening, as he stared at a photo of his mom taped to the corner of his desk, it hit him. True legacy wasn't about accolades or inventions. It was about people. It was about the lives you touched, the lessons you imparted, and the love you shared. Determined to honor this insight, Marcus decided to focus more on mentorship. He began hosting workshops for aspiring engineers, sharing not just technical skills, but also stories of failure, resilience, and growth. Success isn't about never falling, he told a group of students during one session. It's about getting back up every time you do. Jamal, too, grappled with questions of purpose. His design studio had grown into a powerhouse, earning awards and recognition worldwide. Yet, amid the glitz and glamour, he sometimes felt disconnected. From the raw, unfiltered creativity that had first fueled his passion, to reconnect with his roots, he started spending more time teaching art to kids through Ripple Effect. Watching their eyes light up as they experimented with colors and textures reminded him why he fell in love with art in the first place. He also began collaborating with other artists, creating large-scale installations that tackled pressing social issues like climate change and racial injustice. One project, titled Roots and Wings, featured a massive mural depicting intertwined trees symbolizing interconnectedness. The piece became a viral sensation, sparking conversations about unity and collective responsibility. Tyrone faced his own existential crossroads. As an advocate for systemic change, he had witnessed both victories and setbacks. Some policies he fought for had been implemented, improving lives in tangible ways. Others had stalled, leaving him frustrated and disillusioned. But what weighed on him most was the toll his relentless activism took on his mental health. Late nights, constant travel, and the emotional burden of bearing witness to suffering left him drained. Aisha, his partner, noticed the changes and encouraged him to take a step back. "You can't pour from an empty cup," she reminded him gently. Reluctantly, Tyrone agreed to slow down, prioritizing self-care and reflection. During this period, he rediscovered the power of storytelling as a tool for healing and connection. He launched a podcast called Voices Unbound, where he interviewed activists, artists, and everyday heroes about their struggles and triumphs. The show quickly gained traction, becoming a platform for underrepresented voices. Despite their individual challenges, the boys remained steadfast in their commitment to Ripple Effect. By now, the organization had expanded to over a dozen countries, impacting thousands of lives annually. Its programs were diverse, ranging from STEM education to environmental conservation to mental health support. What set Ripple Effect apart was its emphasis on collaboration and adaptability. Local chapters operated independently, tailoring initiatives to meet specific community needs. Still, Marcus, Jamal, and Tyrone stayed deeply involved, traveling frequently to oversee operations and connect with participants. Their presence inspired trust and loyalty, reinforcing the belief that Ripple Effect wasn't just an organization, it was a family. One of the most transformative moments came when the boys decided to host a global summit, bringing together leaders, innovators, and activists from across the globe. Held in Johannesburg, South Africa, the event drew attendees from all walks of life, united by a shared desire to create positive change. Over 3 days, they engaged in workshops, panel discussions, and networking sessions, exchanging ideas and forging partnerships. Marcus spoke passionately about the intersection of technology and humanity, urging participants to use innovation responsibly. Jamal led an interactive art session, encouraging attendees to co-create a mural symbolizing unity and resilience. Tyrone moderated a panel on grassroots organizing, emphasizing the importance of listening to marginalized voices. By the end of the summit, alliances had formed, resources had been pooled, and plans for collaborative projects were underway. The summit marked a turning point for Ripple Effect, solidifying its reputation as a catalyst for global change. Media outlets hailed it as a groundbreaking initiative, highlighting its inclusivity and impact. Donations poured in, enabling the organization to expand its reach even further. But perhaps the greatest reward was seeing former participants step into leadership roles, taking ownership of Ripple Effect's mission. Young men and women who had once benefited from its programs were now running chapters, designing curricula, and mentoring others. For Marcus, Jamal, and Tyrone, this was the ultimate validation, a testament to the ripple effect they had envisioned all those years ago. Back home, the boys continued to navigate the complexities of adulthood. Relationships evolved, careers shifted, and new responsibilities emerged. Marcus and Elena welcomed their first child, a daughter named Amara, whose laughter filled their home with joy. Jamal proposed to Maya during a sunset picnic, surprising her with a ring he had designed himself. Tyrone and Aisha adopted a rescue dog named Luna, whose playful antics brought lightness to their busy lives. Family gatherings became cherished traditions filled with laughter, food, and heartfelt conversations. Even Mr. Davidson joined them occasionally, regaling everyone with tales of his youth and marveling at how much the boys had grown. Yet, amidst the joys, there were inevitable losses. Marcus's mom passed away peacefully in her sleep, leaving behind a void that could never be filled. Her funeral was a celebration of her life, attended by friends, neighbors, and countless individuals she had touched. Marcus delivered the eulogy, his voice steady despite the tears streaming down his face. "She taught me everything I know about kindness, strength, and love," he said, clutching a photo of her smiling face. "And though she's gone, her spirit lives on. In me, in our family, and in the work we do." Jamal and Tyrone stood beside him, offering silent support, knowing that grief was something they would carry together. Losses like these underscored the fragility of life, reminding the boys to cherish every moment. They made a conscious effort to slow down, savoring simple pleasures like morning coffee, evening walks, and impromptu dance parties in the kitchen. They also deepened their commitment to giving back, recognizing that their privilege came with a responsibility to uplift others. Whether it was volunteering at shelters, funding scholarships, or simply lending a listening ear, they sought to make kindness a daily practice. As they entered their 40s, Marcus, Jamal, and Tyrone reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From humble beginnings in a tight-knit neighborhood to becoming forces of change on a global scale, their story was one of perseverance, gratitude, and unwavering friendship. They knew they hadn't done it alone. Countless people had, believed in them, supported them, and walked alongside them, and though the road ahead remained uncertain, they faced it with courage and determination. One crisp autumn evening, as they sat around a bonfire in Marcus's backyard, they talked about the future. "What's next?" Tyrone asked, poking at the flames with a stick. Jamal shrugged, his gaze thoughtful. "More of the same, I guess. Just trying to make a difference one day at a time." Marcus nodded, smiling softly. "Yeah, and remembering where we came from." For Marcus, Jamal, and Tyrone, life was no longer about chasing dreams. It was about living them fully, authentically, and with purpose. They had built extraordinary lives, yes, but what mattered most was the love, connection, and impact they carried with them. And as long as they stayed true to those values, they knew they would continue to inspire ripples of change, for themselves, for their communities, and for generations to come. As the years continued to unfold, Marcus, Jamal, and Tyrone found themselves at a unique crossroads in their lives. They had achieved remarkable success, built meaningful careers, and created an organization that touched countless lives. Yet, they couldn't shake the feeling that there was still so much more to do. The world around them seemed to grow increasingly complex, with challenges mounting faster than solutions could be implemented. Climate change, social inequality, political polarization, these issues loomed large, demanding urgent attention. But instead of feeling overwhelmed, the boys saw this as an opportunity to double down on their mission. Their journey wasn't just about what they had accomplished, it was about what they could still achieve. Marcus, now in his early 40s, poured his energy into scaling ripple effects environmental initiatives. His portable water purification system had become a cornerstone of global humanitarian efforts, providing clean drinking water to disaster-stricken areas and underserved communities. But he knew technology alone wasn't enough. Real change required education, collaboration, and sustainable practices. To address this, he launched a program called Green Roots, which focused on teaching young people about environmental stewardship. Through workshops, field trips, and hands-on projects, participants learned how to combat climate change in their own neighborhoods. Marcus often joined these sessions, rolling up his sleeves alongside kids planting trees or building rainwater harvesting systems. Watching their enthusiasm reignited his passion for engineering, not as a tool for profit, but as a means to heal the planet. Jamal, meanwhile, turned his focus toward bridging cultural divides through art. He believed creativity had the power to transcend language, geography, and ideology, uniting people across differences. With this vision in mind, he spearheaded a global art exchange program under Ripple Effects' umbrella. Artists from different countries collaborated on joint projects, blending styles and traditions to create works that celebrated diversity. One such project culminated in a traveling exhibition titled Threads of Humanity, featuring murals, sculptures, and installations created by international teams. The exhibition toured major cities, drawing massive crowds and sparking conversations about identity, belonging, and shared humanity. Jamal traveled with the exhibit, speaking passionately about the importance of embracing differences while finding common ground. Art reminds us that we're all connected, he told an audience in Paris. It's not about where we come from, it's about where we can go together. Tyrone's advocacy work took on new dimensions as well. Recognizing the need for systemic change, he shifted his focus from grassroots campaigns to policy reform. He co-founded a think tank dedicated to researching and proposing innovative solutions to social justice issues. The think tank brought together experts from various fields, lawyers, economists, educators, to develop strategies addressing everything from criminal justice reform to affordable housing. Tyrone also expanded his podcast, Voices Unbound, turning it into a multimedia platform that included documentaries, live events, and educational resources. His goal was simple: amplify marginalized voices and hold those in power accountable. Though the work was grueling, Tyrone drew strength from the stories of resilience he encountered daily. Change starts with listening, he often said, and once you hear someone's truth, you can't unhear it. Despite their demanding schedules, the boys made time for personal growth and reflection. Marcus began practicing meditation, finding solace in quiet moments amidst the chaos. He encouraged others to prioritize mental health, incorporating wellness workshops into Ripple Effects programming. Jamal rediscovered his love for painting, spending hours in his studio creating pieces inspired by his travels and experiences. These paintings became part of a solo exhibition titled Reflections, which raised funds for arts education programs. Tyrone, ever the optimist, embraced journaling as a way to process his thoughts and document his journey. He even published a book of essays, sharing lessons learned along the way and offering advice to aspiring activists. The book became a bestseller, further cementing his status as a thought leader. Their friendship remained the bedrock of their lives, anchoring them during turbulent times. Annual retreats evolved into week-long getaways, where they unplugged from the world and reconnected with each other. These trips weren't just about relaxation, they were opportunities to dream big, challenge each other, and reaffirm their shared purpose. During one retreat in Costa Rica, they hiked to a secluded waterfall sitting by its edge as the sun dipped below the horizon. "Do you ever wonder if we've bitten off more than we can chew?" Tyrone asked, breaking the silence. Jamal chuckled, softly. "Every day. But then I remember, we didn't start this alone and we won't finish it alone either." Marcus nodded, adding, "Besides, isn't that the point? To keep pushing boundaries even when it feels impossible?" The ripple effect of their work extended far beyond what they could have imagined. Former participants of Ripple Effects programs were now leaders in their own right, carrying forward the torch of kindness and innovation. Some founded nonprofits, others became teachers, entrepreneurs, or artists. Many credited Marcus, Jamal, and Tyrone for inspiring them to believe in themselves and their ability to make a difference. "You showed us that our dreams mattered," one young woman said during a reunion event. "And because of you, I'm standing here today, doing exactly what I always wanted to do." Moments like these reminded the boys why they had started this journey in the first place. Mr. Davidson, now in his late 70s, remained a cherished mentor and friend. Though age had slowed him down, his spirit remained as vibrant as ever. He attended every major milestone, cheering loudly from the sidelines. During one particularly emotional gathering, he pulled the boys aside and handed each of them a small box. Inside were engraved watches bearing the words, "Kindness starts everything." "These are reminders," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "of where you came from and of the incredible impact you've had on the world." The boys hugged him tightly, overwhelmed by gratitude. By their mid-40s, Marcus, Jamal, and Tyrone had reached a level of fulfillment few people ever experienced. They had built extraordinary lives, yes, but what truly mattered was the legacy they were leaving behind. Ripple Effect wasn't just an organization anymore, it was a movement, a philosophy, a way of life. Its principles of empathy, collaboration, and resilience resonated with people across generations and geographies. And though the boys knew they wouldn't live forever, they took comfort in knowing that their work would endure long after they were gone. One evening, as they sat on the rooftop of Jamal's studio overlooking Atlanta's skyline, they reflected on the twists and turns of their journey. "Remember when we thought changing a tire was the biggest thing we'd ever do?" Tyrone joked, shaking his head. Marcus laughed, leaning back in his chair. "Yeah, who would have thought it'd lead to all this?" Jamal raised his glass, catching the fading light. To ripples becoming waves. As they clinked glasses, they felt a deep sense of peace. Life hadn't been easy, it rarely was, but they had faced every challenge with courage and grace. They had stayed true to themselves, supported each other, and used their gifts to uplift others. For Marcus, Jamal, and Tyrone, that was enough. Because in the end, their story wasn't just about three boys from a humble neighborhood. It was about the power of kindness, the strength of community, and the belief that even the smallest actions could spark monumental change. And as long as they kept believing, the ripple effect would continue, touching lives and shaping futures for years to come.